The wind came crawling over the desert just before sunrise, carrying with it the strange, metallic smell of something unsettled, something old and angry, and rancher. Cole Maddox felt it before he even opened his eyes. The way a man who has lived too long on wild land can sense trouble rumbling beneath the horizon. His ranch, Maddox Ridge, lay quiet and unmoving in the pale dawn, the fences stretching like silver lines, the cattle grazing half awake, the horses pacing restlessly in their pens as though they, too, sensed what the day was already preparing to unleash. Cole stepped onto the porch, boots creaking, mug of black coffee steaming in the cool air, and looked across the vast, sun-baked land. He had spent 12 hard years turning into something that actually felt like life. But that same land, 3 miles of stubborn earth, valleys carved by forgotten rivers, and ridges older than memory, held a dark history that didn't belong to him. Long before Cole had ever set a boot here, 2 Apache clans, the Tsaka, guardians of ancient customs, and the Vashin, young warriors hungry for lost ground, had drawn invisible borders across these sands, borders carved from blood, pride, and sacred stories that white men like Cole were never meant to walk over. For years the clans coexisted in a tense, delicate balance, a peace shaped not by trust but by exhaustion. But rumors had started creeping through trading posts. The Tsaka accused the Vashin of raiding their livestock. The Vashin accused the Tsaka of ambushing their scouts. No proof. No witnesses. Just anger thickening like storm clouds. Cole tried to ignore the whispers. After all, what could a rancher do against the weight of tribal history? But the desert had its own ways of warning a man. And this morning the warning felt near enough to touch. Horses whinnied sharply from the corral, staring at the southern ridge where a thin column of smoke spiraled upward. Too early in the day and too dark to be a cook fire. Cole frowned. "That ain't good," he muttered. He saddled Midnight, his black stallion, and rode toward the ridge, dust kicking up behind him in anxious swirls. As he climbed the slope, the sun finally broke over the horizon, gold, sharp, unforgiving, and what Cole saw below made his stomach drop. 2 war parties stood on opposite sides of his land, the Tsaka to the east, feathers tied in braids, bows drawn with eagle feather arrows. The Vashin to the west, bodies painted with red clay, spears angled like fangs. They weren't shouting. They weren't moving. They were waiting, waiting for the wrong twitch, the wrong breath, the wrong omen to justify the first strike. But worst of all, right in the middle of those 2 silent armies stood Cole's ranch hand. 17-year-old Eli Dawson, a kid whose courage grew faster than his sense. He had gotten up early to mend the fence line and wandered directly into the most dangerous patch of land in the entire Arizona territory. Without even realizing it, Cole shouted his name, but the desert wind tore the sound apart. Eli turned, confused, raising his hand slightly, not understanding that the simple motion looked like readiness to fight. A Tsaka warrior pulled back his bowstring. A Vashin warrior leaned into his spear. Eli froze, eyes wide, lips trembling, because now he understood. It wasn't a fence that was about to break today. It was peace. Cole kicked Midnight hard, racing down the hill, his heartbeat thundering in his throat because he knew one thing. If either clan shed blood on his land, neither would stop until the other was wiped clean off the earth. He had heard the stories. He had seen the scars on men who survived such clashes. He knew full well that these weren't simply 2 groups of tribesmen. They were proud nations carrying the weight of generations. And pride was a fire that turned everything it touched into kindling. As Cole reached the valley floor, he threw himself between Eli and the warriors, hands raised high, shouting for everyone to stand down. For a moment, just one fragile, breathless moment, the desert held still. Then a sharp cry cut the air. A single arrow flew. Not at Cole, not at Eli, but across the valley, from one clan to the other. A provocation, a challenge, a mistake or a declaration, no one could tell. All that mattered was the reaction. Warriors roared. Spears lifted. Horses reared. And in the span of a heartbeat, the ancient war between the Tsaka and the Vashin reignited, sparks turning to wildfire right on Cole's land. As the first wave of warriors surged forward, Cole grabbed Eli by the shirt and dragged him behind a fallen log, shouting over the chaos that they had to run, that the whole ridge was about to explode in violence. But Eli pointed shakily toward the southern cliffs where a lone figure stood watching, the TSAK war chief's daughter, Kiona, a woman Cole had met only once yet could never forget. She raised her hand and signaled for Cole. Not Eli. Cole. And in that moment, arrows raining down around them, earth shaking under the stampede of warriors, Cole realized something horrifying. Whatever this war was about, whatever had provoked the clans after years of tense calm, he was somehow tied to it. And Kiona had come to deliver a message that would change everything. Not just for him. Not just for Eli, but for every soul caught between the two. Apache clans now thundering into battle across Maddox Ridge.